Hello, friends. Here, let's take a look at Ethereum together, shall we? Oh, great idea. Thanks. Oh, well, thank you. Well, you're welcome. What have we got on the go in terms of Ethereum at the minute? We've got this descending broadening wedge, and the prices came up to around about the 200 level. That's where they were kind of closing that in around the 200s, and you can see that we're at 200 at the minute, and we're asking the questions: Will we see 200 in terms of this descending broadening wedge, and more or less where the middle of it would be at, more or less? Are we going to see this operating as support in around this 200 simple moving average, and just generally speaking, go towards the top side of this thing, or will we see it turning around and we'll have to readjust our thinking on this overall? If it doesn't, in yesterday's video I said was if it doesn't actually do that, then I will change it to be a channel instead. And that's what I'm going to go ahead and do now, because it's possible to kind of do this instead of more channel-esque anyway, and ask the question, using these wicks here and the tops of these bodies here going down that way, and dragging this round a bit and using these wicks here instead and these bodies, and saying, hey, we're in this channel area, and then we've got this zone in the middle here where we could think about in terms of if we break up above this in the 205s, will we make it up to the 210 targets and try and get into the 220s and make it back into this wedge? Now, as time goes on, it's looking more and more like you'd have to get up towards the 220 to make it into this wedge area. So it's getting towards the point now where I think that we could actually just delete this off the chart. So that's what I'll be doing in the future videos, getting rid of that upward rising wedge, the two magnolia colored lines there. But and what we're looking at is how this will all operate around this area. Will we see the prices come back down again to the 195 area, and the 190 where the 200 simple moving average is in fact, is that the 200 simple? If I just let me change this a second, I think it could still be stuck on the 365 after having a wee laugh about that on the yeah, it is, sorry, excuse me. Yeah, so there. In fact, are you curious? I mean, Carl was talking about it on the Bitcoin video. So let's just get rid of all the junk off the chart so it's not so crazy looking, and change this again and do the same thing as what we're looking at. Because Carl from the moon, shout out to Carl. I think he's a good guy and all the rest of it. Just think that it wasn't very actionable advice. 365. Oh, it's almost a flat line. Is that a surprise? No, it's not a surprise. But if I put it back on the 280, you'll see that it's not a million miles away either. Exactly. And if I put it back on 200, so you can see what it's like, then you can see things are moving around a bit more in terms of how this works, and then how this has been quite rubbish as a moving trend indicator, with this downward slope during this upward price action, as this upward slope during this downward price action, this downward slope during this upward price action, this sideways, and during this, it's been quite rubbish. So as a standalone thing on its own, doesn't really work very well anyway. But let's just change it over to what we want to have it on, and point out as well, by the way, we had this golden cross on the 50 and the 200 simple, and what we've seen since is we've not had that volatility we might expect to have had in around that area quite yet, but it's still early days yet. But if we change it to 280 and change this to 70, so it includes the weekends, then you can see that we had a death cross over here, and we're waiting for this to actually sort of pan out. It's come back down and retested 200 simple. Could we see things continue on the down the way? Well, we could potentially, and we do have, of course, that construct, bearing in mind, of the wedge or the channel during this period of time, and we'll see how things go. In general, staying above the 193 area, where we have the 236, or the 236 Fibonacci retrace in here. Sorry about all the mess on the charts. Where we have the 236 Fibonacci, this green circle I think was probably meant to be around it, that 193 area. If we can stay above that, then that's decent, because it reigns this as being invalid. Going on below that, down the way during this, is part of a downward sort of channel of some sort or whatever, then I'd be looking towards 185 next there afterwards, in terms of just that'll be coming in around the median line, and then 177 again thereafter. So those two numbers coming back to haunt us, it's not a surprise. Top side, you're looking at whether or not we can get out of this area and make it into that broadening wedge, and beyond that you're looking at 216 and 220. If I just kind of undo a whole bunch so I can go back and have that put to a broadening wedge again back at the start of the channel, start of the video, then hide a bit of noise. Then of course I can remind us then of course what we're looking at towards that 210 area, and will we stay above this sort of 195 area for now, or you have that 365 moving average coming in at, with all the balls that involves in terms of, you know, try and tell that to your boss. Stuff that we're chatting about. Anyway, good crack, and that'll do for today's episode. Really, in terms of like moving, in terms of this is a downwards trend. Do we have bullish divergence on the go yet? We don't have any bullish divergence on the go yet. For us to be able to hope for this to turn around, this is still looking as it is for now. I'm more confident in saying that it's kind of channel-esque than it is broadening wedge-esque, given yesterday's price action. But there's plenty of time left in the day. Maybe we'll see this happen. That's kind of where we're looking at in terms of managing risk. Those areas that I pointed out beforehand, and there's no point in keeping this on 365. I mean, it's only good for lols, so I'll just change it now before heading off to do the Chainlink video. So thanks so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. If you could hit like, that would be fantastic, and if you could hit subscribe if you're just new here, that would be fantastic too. Let's see if this does actually turn out with the 200 simple crossing, the 50 simple, and the golden cross formation here. If we can come in and test this area at the bottom of this descending broadening wedge type idea / channel, whatever, in at this where we've got 177 or 180 area where that's happening now. If that happens over the next wee while, that'll be interesting to see if the prices can turn around from there and go towards the top side, kind of confirming this and giving it a bit of a retest during that period of time. That would be good to see. And for the curious among us, where is the 21 EMA currently coming in at? Right underneath the price action. You know, that's supporting its price at the minute, breaking below 197, and you could see all of that scenario pan out. That's kind of what I want to see hold, really, that 195, just like say in the middle of the broadening wedge or whatever. In the meantime, should we want to see the 210 target get hit? Otherwise, you know, whatever. But that's our volatility in that area. There's no divergence to be saying that it's positive scenario. And you can see these wedges here we broke out of in the daily time frame, going up to the 2-day time frame, and asking the same question. Well, look, you know, we were asking this and we've broken out of this in the stochastics. Now it's happening. Is there anything particularly bullish to be talking about in terms of charts? Not really at all. So, you know, we'll wait and see how things go on that front. I'm not biased towards the downside. Like I say, plenty of targets to be had. In terms of the 2-day time frame and how this is all fitting in here on log, maybe I should just take it off log actually for now. In terms of the 2-day time frame, you know, we got quite close to the top of this broadening wedge type construct type idea, but we haven't satisfied that, and I'm thinking about again whether or not I'll change that to a channel. Actually, I said in yesterday's video, and I did it earlier on, so I'll just do that again just now here on the linear chart. And there we go. So, right, thanks so much for tuning in. I'll catch you in the next episode. Been my pleasure. Please hit subscribe and like and all that stuff. And yeah, see you again. Do daily technical analysis videos for all of this stuff. So really appreciate you tuning in. See you next time.